Supererogatory prayers will only increase this proximity and enhance the grades of the believer. However, the necessary condition for the correctness of worship acts is that they should be only for the nearness of Allah, and do not join anyone in the service of his Lord. 13. Thus a worship act, whether obligatory or recommended, should not be for the creatures to see and to earn their praises. Even if along with the service of Allah we aim to achieve these things, it is prohibited and is a greater sin. He should not serve anyone else. If man forgets to perform some worship acts on time, Allah will forgive this carelessness, as the activity that had diverted him from prayer was not prohibited, or in those moments he had not worshipped anything else. He should not have worshipped Satan. He should not have given preference to his selfish desires over the commands of Allah. The same conditions apply for prayers on time, even if, for example, he prays correct prayer at the time of Zuhr, noon. At least he will not be eligible for punishment of omitting prayer. But Allah shall not accept such prayers because he does not say the truth when he recites, I serve you alone. One who serves one person at one time and another at other times cannot be a sincere servant of Allah. The prayers of this person will not raise his status. It does not increase proximity to Allah. Allah accepts the worship of only those who fear Allah all the time. Allah only accepts from those who guard against evil. 14. Maulana Rumi says, the mother of all idols is the idol of yourself, because all those idols are snakes and it is the python. 15. Worshipping the desires. A Muslim recites Iyaka Nabudu, I worship you alone, 10 times every 24 hours. However, he spends a major part of those 24 hours in the worship of his self, his desires and Satan, etc. He remains a slave of carnal desires and satanic hopes. He is prepared to be humiliated for worldly wealth. That is, he even becomes a slave of money. He betrays trusts and does not fulfill the rights of others. So much so, that for money he is prepared to sell his religion also. That is why the Messenger of Allah said, the slave of dirhams and dinars material wealth will be destroyed. The king summoned a wise man. When he came to the king he did not fulfill the rituals of respecting the king. You have not shown respect to me, complained the king. The wise man said, that is because I am the ruler of that of which you are the slave. You are the slave of your wealth and position, while I do not give importance to these things. History is replete with examples where people have even sold their religion for wealth. As an example, we mention the story of Qazi Shura of Kufa. When Ibn Ziyad ordered Qazi Shura to issue a verdict fatwa for the killing of Imam Hussein a.s., he was not initially prepared to do it. Ibn Ziyad insisted and Qazi Shura banged his inkwell on his head and began to bleed. In this condition he asked, how is it possible for me to issue such a verdict? During the night Ibn Ziyad dispatched to his house huge quantities of gold and valuables in numerous sacks. The next day he himself came to the royal palace and said, I gave it a deep thought last night. As a result I have understood that fighting against Hussein is obligatory, because he has revolted against Yazid, the caliph of this time, and intends to spread mischief. It is written in the book Jawahir al-Kalam, that 700 million dirhams were collected annually in the treasury of Kufa. Nothing had been taken out of it since the time of Muawiyah till the time Imam Hussein a.s. turned towards Karbala. Whatever wealth had accumulated during those years in the Kufa treasury was distributed among the Yazidite forces by Ibn Ziyad. In the same way Samra bin Jundub is considered to be a companion of the Holy Prophet s. Muawiyah said to him, go to the pulpit and announce that you heard the Holy Prophet say that following verse. And among men is he who sells himself to seek the pleasure of Allah. 16. Was revealed in praise of Ibn Muljim, the killer of Ali a.s., while it was actually revealed for Ali ibn Abi Talib. And also say, that the verse, and among men is he whose speech about the life of this world causes you to wonder, and he calls on Allah to witnesses to what is in his heart, yet he is the most violent of adversaries. 17. Was revealed for Ali a.s., in return of which I shall pay you 1,000 dirhams. Samra did not agree, but he relented when Muawiyah offered him 2,000. He at once went to the pulpit and uttered such false things. How after the following couplets, O wealth, I do not know how lucky you were born. In your love the son becomes the enemy of his mother. You are the beloved of kings and rich people. The king gets satisfaction from you and the army gets decor. Even the pious do not turn towards the prayer niche without thinking about you. And the sermonizer does not step on the pulpit without your love. A person forgets Allah even as he is busy in prayers. The appetite for wealth is in his heart. Though he utters, "Thee alone we worship," actually he is attached to something else. Such a servant is in fact a polytheist. Rather he is a real Satan. He shall get degradation in the hereafter and hell fire. How nicely Saeed Barul Ulum has described this. When you are busy only in prayers you must not be distracted by polytheism, liar following a habit etc. You should not be such and you should not do any of such acts. You should not utter something regarding which you will have to regret. You are such that at the time of prayer also you become a slave of your desires. 18. Slave of many masters and slave of one master. The Holy Quran says, Allah sets forth an example. There is a slave in whom are several partners differing with one another, and there is another slave wholly owned by one man. Are the two alike in condition? All praise is due to Allah. Nay, most of them do not know. 19. Obviously when a person is a slave of numerous self-desires, satanic instigations and he pleads with so many people, how can we expect to live in peace? While the slave of only Allah experiences utmost peace and comfort. Since you have got a single heart you must choose only one lover. 20. Steadfastness in monotheism. Monotheism is the foundation of Islam. Indeed one who turns away from the obedience of one God and begins to serve his personal desires and Satan, his faith is destroyed. Such a person cannot defend his belief. That is why a person must say in all sincerity, I witness that there is no God except Allah. He should be steadfast in his faith. Such people are mentioned in the Quran. As for those who say, Our Lord is Allah, then continue in the right way, the angels descend upon them, saying, Fear not, nor be grieved, and receive good news of the garden, which you were promised. 21. It is mentioned in Tafsir Minhaj as-Sadiqin that Sufyan ibn Abdullah Thaqafi requested the Prophet to teach him a quality that he can imbibe. The Prophet said, Say my Lord is only Allah. Then be steadfast upon it. He asked, O Messenger of Allah, what is the most dangerous thing that we should beware of? The Messenger of Allah caught his tongue with his hand said, Guard your tongue. An example. Abdullah ibn Huzaifa ibn Qais was taken a prisoner while fighting against the Romans. The Romans told him to embrace Christianity and they would release him. Abdullah did not agree. The Romans heated olive oil in a huge pot and brought a Muslim prisoner before Abdullah. When he also did not agree to embrace Christianity, he was thrown into the boiling oil in front of Abdullah. His flesh separated from him and his bones disintegrated. Once more Abdullah was told to embrace Christianity but he did not relent. The Christian chief said, Cast him into the oil too. Hearing this Abdullah began to weep. Upon hearing him wail that Christian chief ordered that he be brought back. Abdullah said, I am not weeping due to the pain I would suffer, I am crying because I regret having only one life and I could sacrifice my life for Allah only once. It was my heart's desire that if only each hair of my body had one life and each time I were revived to die again. In martyrdom, the Christian leader was astounded. He thought of releasing him and he said, Kiss my head and I will set you free. Abdullah refused. The chief became furious and said, Give up Islam. Become a Christian. I will give you my daughter and bequeath my wealth to you. Abdullah still did not agree. The chief said, Okay, kiss my head and I will release 80 Muslim prisoners with you. Abdullah accepted this. They returned to Medina. The other Muslims made fun of him saying, You have kissed an infidel. Abdullah said, Due to that gesture Allah released 80 Muslim prisoners. This incident is mentioned on page 128 of the second volume of Sayfinat al-Bahar. Polytheism in seeking the help of causes. A type of polytheism common among Muslims is that the creator of the universe has entrusted the system of the universe to causes and means. The cause for everything is appointed in something else. For example, the cause for the birth of a child are his parents. The cause of the cure of a disease rests in medicine and doctor. He considers work the cause of earning livelihood. Man seeks the help of the causes to obtain some benefit or to save himself from some harm. If he begins to consider that this is only a medium of harm and benefit while the actual cause is Allah, there shall definitely be an increase in his recognition and insight. Say, I do not control any benefit or harm for my own soul except as Allah please. 22. Muslims should consider causes to be mere causes. If Allah wills He sends benefits or harm through them. If Allah wants He can nullify all their effects. Man has to perform prayers in order to make this belief firm. And every day he should sincerely utter this 10 times. Thee alone we worship, and Thine help we seek. These sentences are recited at least twice. In every prayer, they imply that the person considers Allah to be the bestower of everything in the world and the hereafter. Only He can protect us from the mischief of the world and the hereafter. He is the true refuge. This is the actual meaning of reliance on Allah tawakkul. And reliance is a necessary component of faith. We should repose hope in the final cause. Reliance does not mean that we do not refer to the causes. Reliance is an emotion of the heart. Its strength, hope and support is the Almighty Allah alone. However, it is the command of Allah that we seek help of the causes. On the basis of this command, if man seeks the assistance of the causes for gaining something or avoiding some harm, it is a part of reliance. Every rational person garners the support of someone or something. However, his sight is trained only on the Almighty. He continues to pray to Allah because he knows that if Allah wishes He can solve his problem through the cause, and if He so wills it will become ineffective. Then Allah can make someone else the cause. The final authority is not in the hands of the cause. It is with Allah. Allah can fulfill the needs of His slave through whichever medium He likes. If Allah wills He can fulfill His needs even without a cause or a medium. We have mentioned the details of this in the first volume of Greater Sins. Obeying someone in sin is also polytheism. And most of them do not believe in Allah without associating others with Him. 23. Zurara says that he asked Imam Muhammad Baqir A.S. regarding the explanation of the above verse. Imam replied, it is the same type of polytheism that man says, number by your life. 24,154. Thus swearing by a creature to prove our word right is also a kind of polytheism. The following tradition has also been recorded in Tafsir Ayashi from Imam Baqir A.S. The saying of man, by Allah, or by such and such person, also constitutes polytheism. This shows that for swearing we must not make anyone a partner to Allah. We should not consider Allah, that final cause, to be equal to a creature and intermediary cause. Thus it is only Allah's name, which deserves to be sworn upon. In reality the greatest entity is that of Allah. The greatness of all the creatures is derived from the Almighty. Thus we should not consider anyone as the partner of Allah in according respect. Swearing by anyone else is not prohibited. However, it is important to state that since swearing by creature of Allah is not polytheism in worship or obedience, it is not prohibited. In the same way it is not prohibited if we make someone a partner in honoring Allah. It is certainly permitted. According to Sheikh Tusi, such traditions were meant to imply that it is a detestable act. He writes on pg 191 of volume 6 of his book Al-Mabsuda, it is detestable to swear by anyone else other than Allah. For example, to swear by the Prophet, the Kaaba, by one's parents, etc., is detestable. It is recorded in traditions that the Holy Prophet has said, do not swear by your forefathers and the idols. Do not swear by anyone except Allah. Do not even swear by His name unless you are speaking the truth. Another tradition of the Prophet says that when he heard Umar swearing in the name of his father, he said, the Almighty Allah has prohibited you to swear by your forefathers. The Messenger of Allah also said, one who swears by anyone other that Allah has ascribed a partner to Allah. Some narrations mention that such a person has denied his Lord. However, it is construed as polytheism and disbelief only when man makes him a partner in Allah's greatness and equates him to Allah, but if he considers him of less importance, then it is not polytheism. Disbelief or a prohibited act. It is most certainly detestable in the light of these traditions. Practice for monotheism. People have been refrained from swearing by the creatures so that they may imbibe the habit. Monotheism. We should always and in all circumstances train our thoughts on Allah Almighty alone. In our words, deeds, actions and everything, there should not even be an iota of polytheism. We should gain perfect belief in monotheism and remain steadfast on it. In this way we are prohibited to seek the help of creatures. This also helps to inculcate the habit of asking everything from Allah, except when one is helpless. Muhakkik Ardabili says, "It is detestable to ask anyone other than Allah. And this is proved from reason and Sharia. It is mentioned in traditions that some companions requested the Messenger of Allah to guarantee paradise for them. The Prophet gave his guarantee on the condition that they would be so self-reliant that if while mounting the horse they dropped the whip, even if they could ask any person standing by to pick it up, they would themselves get down and pick it up themselves." This tradition is mentioned on pg. 6 of the book Zubdat al-Bayan. Thus asking a creature is detestable, but the detestability does not remain in times of emergencies. However, it is prescribed in this way so that people cultivate the habit of monotheism. Do not hide faith by oppression. The 82nd verse of Surah An'am says, "Those who believe and do not mix up their faith with iniquity, those are they who shall have the security and they are those who go aright." Injustice is of various types and the greatest injustice is polytheism. Most surely polytheism is a grievous iniquity. 25. What greater injustice can be there that the master is giving all bounties to his servant and removing every type of problem, but this shameless servant is denying the favors of his master right before his eyes and considering someone else as the bestower of those bounties. What can be more serious than hiding the favors of his master? A person who considers the cause to be everything and believes that the cause is sufficient even without the help of the final cause is an oppressor. One who ignores the unlimited bounties of Allah and instead of his praise and thankfulness he is falsely praising the causes, such a person is beyond the limits of justice. He is an oppressor. He is deserving of different types of punishments. He has forgotten his origin. He was nothing in the beginning. Then he assumed the shape of a sperm. He did not possess anything. When he came to the world he didn't even have clothes on. Later he was bestowed different types of bounties by Allah. Is there any doubt that such thankless person is an oppressor? It is written in the history of Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi that in the beginning Ayaz was one of his slaves. But due to his intelligence and sacrifices he became the closest confidant of the Sultan. Other ministers and courtiers became jealous of him. Ayaz was having a small room of his own and it was always kept locked. No one entered it except Ayaz. Early in the morning he used to enter this room, stay inside for some time and come out again locking it once more. Two of the ministers were always looking for an excuse to bring down Ayaz in the eyes of the Sultan. One day they said to the Sultan, "Ayaz has stolen a part of your treasure and kept it in a room. He is looking for a chance to revolt against you. No one can enter his room as he keeps it locked." The Sultan fell into doubt and issued an order that when Ayaz is in his service the next morning, the two of them would break the lock, enter the room and bring to him whatever they find there. The next day when Ayaz joined the duty to serve the Sultan the two ministers went to his room, accompanied by their laborers and bullock carts etc. They broke the lock and entered the room. But all they saw there were an old dress and a pair old shoes. They said to themselves that no one would put a lock just for a tattered dress and shoes. The treasure is probably buried in the room. Thus they began to dig the room. The deeper they dug the more ashamed they felt. At last the two of them came to the Sultan in fear. The king learnt of their jealousy and lies and said, "If Ayaz is satisfied you can be saved." The vizier fell down at the feet of Ayaz and offered to give him all his wealth. Ayaz said, "The judgment rests with the Sultan." The Sultan forgave the two ministers and then asked Ayaz why he had locked an empty room, and why he visited it every day. That is, why he had been the center of some people's doubt. Ayaz said, "O Sultan, I was a destitute before entering your service. I did not possess anything other than that dress and a pair of shoes. By the grace of the Sultan I have everything today. I fear that one day I may become disobedient and revolt. That is why I keep that dress and shoes in that room. Every day I go there so that I may not become proud. So that I always remember that whatever I have is given to me by the Sultan. In the same way every person should remember his past So let man consider of what he is created. He is created of water pouring forth sperm. 26. In the couplets of Maulana Rumi. You are a germ, you became a lump of flesh by the synthesis of dirt. Even though you might have earned great fame and influence in the world, you were born from the sperm. Leave your ego, O Ayaz. Remember the tattered old dress. That way Ayaz, brimming with intelligence, had hung his clothes and old shoes. Every morning he entered the room alone and said, these are your shoes. Do not look up. Right now in the state that you are will bring ecstasy. It will remove intelligence from the brain and shame from the heart. It was for this reason that Azazel became Iblis. He asked how Adam is superior to me. It is recommended to repeat the following sentences after the afternoon Asr prayer. O Allah, whatever bounty we have is from you. There is no deity except you. I seek forgiveness from you and repent to you. Similarly, we should remember the following sentences of Dua Abu Hamza Thumali. O my chief, I was that nonentity whom you exalted. I am that same weakling whom you bestowed strength. I am that same needy person whom you enriched. I am that same deviated person whom you guided. I am that same lowly creature whom you have made a great person. Believers in difficulties and polytheists in comfort. The Holy Quran says, so when they ride in the ships they call upon Allah, being sincerely obedient to Him, but when He brings them safe to the land, lo, they associate others with Him, thus they become ungrateful for what we have given them, so that they may enjoy, but they shall soon know. 27. The verse shows that people in difficulties tend to become religious, but once they gain comfort they forget their religiosity. But such people cannot escape divine punishment that will soon catch up with them. Forgetting the favors, the Almighty Allah says, and when distress afflicts a man he calls upon his Lord, turning to Him frequently, then when He makes him possess a favor from Him, he forgets that for which he called upon Him before, and sets up rivals to Allah that He may cause men to stray off from His path. Say, enjoy yourself in your ungratefulness a little, surely you are of the inmates of the fire. 28. A wrong notion. In the same surah we have the following verse. So when harm afflicts a man he calls upon us. Then, when we give him a favor from us, he says, I have been given it only by means of knowledge. Nay, it is a trial, but most of them do not know. 29. All blessings are from Allah. The wretched man says that I have got these blessings because of my knowledge, experience, my strength, power and ability. He forgets who has given him this knowledge, strength, ability and experience. If he had considered, he would have known that Allah has bestowed upon him all these blessings for a short period of time, and Allah is the master of everything. And He gives these blessings through the means of such causes. When the fact will be known, it is a matter of sorrow that man wants to remain in the darkness of ignorance. He wants to continue to see the dream of his silly ideas and wrong notions. When death comes and the day of judgment arises, at that time he would know the truth. He would see that the causes, which he was considering not as means of getting bounties, but directly effective, they are just the means. But when the truth will be known, his eyes will open. In the third volume of Kifayatul Muwahhidin, on page number 292, a tradition mentioned as follows. When the truth is revealed, he would be so ashamed that he would wish to hide in a pit of hell as soon as possible, so that he is saved from shame and disgrace. But he does not know that he has lost the opportunity of salvation by his own self. They have come alone and would return alone. The God Almighty says in Surah An'am, and certainly you have come to us alone as we created you at first, and you have left behind your backs the things which we gave you, and we do not see with you your intercessors about whom you asserted that they were all as associates in respect to you. Certainly the ties between you are now cut off and what you asserted is gone from you. 30. In the commentary of this verse in Tafsir al-Mizan, it is written that this noble verse informs that, in the new life man will know the reality of life. On the day of judgment he will be resurrected again and produced before the Lord, and then he will know the reality. He will come to know that the ability which he had to do something was also given by Allah. In the world, none but Allah made arrangements of his life. He had a wrong notion that man's planning was only efficacious. He was thinking that equipment, properties and children, wives and relatives, all by themselves are having some effect in life, but there he will know that it was a baseless thing. In the same way, he considered other gods to be associates of Allah, and thought that they would recommend for him before Allah. It was also a wrong notion and they were not supposed to be worshipped at all. Imploring the causes is deviation. Yes, like the other parts of the world, man is also a part of it. Like the other components he is also under the command of Allah. He is proceeding towards the destination, which Allah has destined for him. Of all the things in this world none can interfere in his kingdom and destiny. Causes that apparently seem to be effective are so due to the effects given to them by Allah. Not one of their effects is permanent and none of their effects is without the help or blessing of Allah. But what can be done if man destroys himself upon the apparent effects of this physical life? He thinks that these means and causes are everything. Because of this misunderstanding, he folds his hands in front of them and implores them. He becomes unmindful of the original cause Allah, the one who is his creator and master as well as of those means and causes. The matter goes to the extent that gradually on account of the effect of those causes he considers them to be permanent. He tries his best that these causes fulfill all his requirements and provide him with all the physical comforts. He spends his whole life in this misunderstanding and false hopes. He forgets the Quranic verse, and life of this world is nothing but play. 31. One who forgets Allah, gets himself forgotten. It is a fact and Quran has made it clear in different verses. For example it says, those who forsook Allah, so he made them forsake their own souls, these it is that are the transgressors. 32,162. When death comes, the soul is separated from the body. Connection with all the physical possessions and resources ends at that time. When alive, the body was having connection with those resources and means. But now that it is dead the connections have also ended. After death man, that is his soul, will know that all these physical means were not permanent and they by themselves were nothing. Nothing. And no one other than Allah is efficacious. You have come to return to us only. 33. This sentence points to the fact that on the day of judgment, physical causes would not be present to help him. You have come, leaving behind whatever we had given you. 34. This part of the verse shows that only Allah is the true cause. And it is a wrong notion that those causes have any effect of their own. Now your connections have been cut off. 35. Man, because of his wrong notion, thought that causes were everything and he remained stuck to them. But after death, he came to know that his idea was wrong. Now it was known that these means and causes, which made him unmindful of the remembrance of Allah, had no such respect or value. Monotheism of actions. A major portion of Quran is regarding monotheism of actions. In this, man is prohibited to associate anything or anyone in the actions and deeds of Allah also. And monotheism of the being is that Allah, in the aspect of his entity, is unique. All the people of the world except materialists acknowledge that the being of God is only one. The nature of man also says that the creator of this universe is one. Hence, whatever polytheism is committed is not regarding monotheism of the being, rather it is committed regarding monotheism of actions. People associate other small deities in the actions of one God. This is also polytheism. Strengthen your faith. That is why it is obligatory on every Muslim to strengthen the fundamentals of his Islamic belief, especially the belief in monotheism. In it lies the good fortune of this world as well as the next. He should know it with certainty that the Creator and the one who gives life is God Almighty. One who continues and cuts short the life is also the same entity. He only gives life and causes death. 36. As creation is the action of Allah, in the same way giving sustenance and granting increase or decrease in sustenance is also in the hands of Allah only. Allah amplifies and straightens the means of subsistence for whom He pleases. 37. In the same way honor and humility is also from Him only. O Allah, Thou exaltest whom Thou pleasest and abasest whom Thou pleasest, in Thine hand is the good. 38. And that He it is who enriches and gives to hold. 39. To bestow a son, a daughter or not to give any children at all this is also from the will of Allah. He grants to whom He pleases daughters and grants to whom He pleases sons. Or He makes them of both sorts, male and female, and He makes whom He pleases barren. 40. It is he who provides food and he who gives water to drink, and cure from sickness is also in his hand. Alone, he who gives me to eat and gives me to drink, and when I am sick, then he restores me to health. 41. Tests and trials are from him alone, and difficulties are also removed by him. And if Allah should afflict you with harm, then there is none to remove it but he, and if he intends good to you there is none to repel his grace. 42. Thus whatever man gets, the will of Allah is always present in it. He alone gives good fortune and he alone leaves in ill luck. Allah makes err whom he pleases and guides aright whom he pleases. 43. In the same way Allah has power over the emotional states of man, like happiness and sorrow. And that he it is who makes men laugh and makes them weep. 44. In short, it should be known that in the kingdom of the exalted Lord, no such thing happens in which his will, his permission, or consent is not there. If in the kingdom of the Creator of the universe a single leaf also grows on the tree, or in the forest a blade of grass takes shape, or if anywhere a leaf breaks and fall down, it is only with the knowledge and will of Allah. And there falls not a leaf but he knows it. 45. Verbal confession is not enough. Though verbal confession of monotheism and brief fundamentals of faith is sufficient, and if because of sins the belief is not affected, then surely it will be a cause of salvation. But an intelligent person will not be content with this limit. First of all, he should try to strengthen his fundamental belief, that is, his conscience also should accept monotheism as if he is seeing God with the eyes of his conscience. His heart should be illuminated with the light of monotheism in such a way that the lamp of his heart never extinguishes. Then his efforts should be that this light nur goes on increasing. To attain this aim, it is necessary to take care of two things. One is to safeguard from following carnal desires, and the other to completely defend the belief in monotheism. The details of these two will come later. Worship of carnal desires is contrary to the belief in monotheism. Worship of carnal desires means to fulfill them whether they clash with the command of Allah or not. It does not befit those who believe in the oneness of God. Monotheists are, in fact, only those who obey Allah's commands and prohibitions. They act upon His laws, and they avoid those actions that He has prohibited. They are careful that they leave no obligatory act and commit no prohibited deed. One who follows carnal desires can never become a true monotheist. He does not deserve to be called a monotheist. In fact, he does not worship only one Allah, but he worships his carnal desires also. Rather, he gives preference to carnal desires over the orders of Allah. Such a person always thinks and considers himself to be independent. He does not consider himself to be in need of Allah. That is why he does not feel it necessary to acquire God's pleasure. Rather, he remains busy in keeping himself happy and in fulfillment of his lusts. Unless man strives seriously for something, he cannot get it. One who seriously desires to adopt belief in monotheism would never give preference to anyone's word over that of God's. And one who gives preference to his carnal desires over Allah's command is not really willing to have the faith of monotheism. While one who blindly runs after carnal desires can only satisfy them to a little extent. Attention on belief in monotheism through words and deeds. Hence a believer is obliged to pay full attention to his speech and behavior, so that he does not deviate from the straight path of monotheism. He should refrain from all such actions that smell of belittling God, or smell of lowering the position of God. For example, a believer performs a good deed. Now he should not be pleased and delighted too much on performing this act. He should always keep in mind that only Allah had given him the divine opportunity to do it. He should not speak of favors conferred by him on others. He should think that Allah had made him the medium and the cause. In the same way, if some other person does a favor to a believer, he should not flatter that person. Rather, he should be thankful to Allah. And he should thank that person that he became the medium of Allah. If someone hurts him, a believer should know that it is a test from Allah. That is why Allah has stopped his help on this occasion. He should remain fearful that he might become deserving of divine punishment and disgrace. He should pray to Allah for the removal of difficulties. He should pray for success in his work. He should never think of being independent of Allah. He should not say, I did this and I did that, or I will do that. He should not even say, if I were not there, This would have happened. I made that one wealthy, and saved that one from trouble. For this kind of talk implies that he proclaims himself to be in the place of the Lord. God should be the center of attention in all actions and speech, to the extent that it is commanded. And do not say of anything, surely I will do it tomorrow, unless Allah pleases. 46. Whenever you want to say something, say it in the above manner. After that it is said, and remember your Lord when you forget. 47. That is, if you have forgotten to say, unless Allah pleases insha'Allah, whenever you remember it, say, unless Allah pleases insha'Allah. Hope from Allah and fear of sins. We should never rely %% on our or anyone's intelligence and power. We should have absolute trust only on the unlimited power of God. If something unpleasant happens to us, we should not get frightened or become sad or unhappy. But our grief and fear should be related to God. That whether Allah is displeased or angry with us or not, whether I have become entitled to punishment or disgrace. It might not be a test, it could be some punishment. What if God does not forgive this bad deed? Hope should be from Allah only. There should be no polytheism in hope and fear also. More subtle than the footfall of an ant. Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq A.S. has said, indeed, polytheism is more subtle than the footfall of an ant. 48,178. Imam has also said that such polytheism is also seen in the action of wearing the ring inverted to have the stone on the side of palm, so that one remembers pending work etc. In the same way people put a knot on the handkerchief, etc. as reminder for some errand. Albeit, such acts normally do not come into the realm of polytheism. It is polytheism when total hope, complete trust is put on the ring or the knot, that it will surely make one remember things. But if for instance one thinks that, if God wills I will remember due to these means, this act would be according to monotheism. And if Allah does not wish, whatever he may do he would never be reminded of the things he wanted to remember. Making someone a medium wasila for God is not polytheism. So the ring or the knot etc. or some person, all that are taken as mediums to make one remember something do not make one commit polytheism. Only Allah should be in the mind, that if Allah wishes, he would cause these mediums to remind one. All hope should be on God alone. To augur evil is a kind of polytheism. To make draw bad omen and to rely on it is also a type of polytheism. The Holy Prophet has said, to consider bad omen as the only effective thing is like thinking that the bad omen has interfered in the actions of God. That is, one has committed polytheism with regard to God's actions if one has followed a bad omen. The tradition above and the one following, both are quoted on page 66 of volume 2 of Hayatul Haywan. The Holy Prophet has also said, one who retraces his steps thinking a bad omen has occurred has committed polytheism. And Imam Ja'far as-Sadiq A.S. has said that the Holy Prophet remarked, not paying attention to bad omen is itself an expiation of it. What is a superstition? To consider something having good or bad influence while God has not made it to be so is known as superstition. As a matter of fact he has made those things as partners of Allah. For example, he is about to do something sensible, but all of a sudden hears someone else in his presence sneezes. Now he leaves whatever he was about to do thinking that this sneeze would affect the outcome of whatever he was about to do. This is superstition in a kind of polytheism. Sneeze is a blessing. This wrong notion is so widespread that people have named it patience. When someone sneezes, people tell him that patience has occurred. Now that work should not be continued. Although logically or by any rule of Sharia the sneeze by itself is not the cause of any incident to occur in future. Rather, according to Islam, one who sneezes is supposed to have blessings and forgiveness. And it can be said that at that time, whatever was said or done had the blessing of God. Inauspicious moment is also nonsense. There are many people who by observing planets and stars predict future events. They inform about the benefit or loss that may occur in future, on the basis of their own wrong notion or on the basis of astrological predictions. They count certain definite moments or times as inauspicious. And if they had decided to do something at that particular time they will not do it. This is also a kind of polytheism. If man knows that profit and loss is in the powerful hands of God, if he begs for God's help through Supplications are charity sadaqah, then that is a proof of monotheism. If at all Allah wishes, then surely He will get the good of it. Amirul Mu'minin A.S. marches to Naharwan. Khawarij is the plural of Khariji, one who goes out. Some soldiers of Ali A.S. left their allegiance to him and started opposing him. Ali A.S. decided to fight those Khawarij and began his march towards Naharwan. Afif ibn Qais said, O Amirul Mu'minin A.S. I am afraid that if you move at this time, you will not get success. I say this on the basis of astrology. The position of the stars indicates weakness of Muslims. Imam said, do you think you can tell the hour when a man goes out and no evil befall him, or can warn of the time at which if one goes out harm will accrue? Whoever testifies to this, falsifies the Quran and becomes unmindful of God in achieving his desired objective and in warding off the undesirable. The Quran says, and if Allah should hasten the evil to men as they desire the hastening of good, their doom should certainly have been decreed for them. 49. These kinds of verses show that good and bad is under the control of God. Man does not even know what he would do tomorrow. This is implied in the following verse. And no one knows what he shall earn on the morrow. 50. The person having such a wrong notion does not seek God's help. He considers himself needless of God in achieving good and avoiding calamities. You cherish saying this so that he who acts on what you say should praise you rather than God. Because according to your misconception you have guided him about the hour in which he would secure benefit and avoid harm. 51. Marched at the same time and returned victorious. In brief, Ali A.S. did not accept the view of Afif, and he said to his companions, march forward taking the name of God and in the shade of his help, and always seek the assistance of God Almighty. Thus, immediately at that hour Imam invaded the Khawarijis, and was victorious in that battle. 9 Khawarijis ran away and the rest were killed. In comparison, very few of Ali's men were killed. Crowing of the crow, just as sneezing, which is considered a bad omen, other silly ideas are also prevalent among the general public. Many things are considered as bad omen, and are thought to affect future happenings. This is a kind of polytheism. For example, listening to crowing of crow is considered by some as inauspicious. If an owl sits on a wall, it is said to be a bad omen. Number 13 is considered inauspicious. If during a journey a bird crosses one's path from right or left, it is considered a sign of inauspiciousness. At the time of coming out of the house, if a handicapped person is seen, it is considered inauspicious. Guests arriving or leaving on Sunday and Wednesday, even visiting a sick person on these eves, is considered to be a cause of misfortune. To consider someone as auspicious or inauspicious is also nonsense. A person purchases a house and starts living in it, gets married and children are born. But he falls into calamities at some time, hence he says that the house is inauspicious. His wife is unlucky, some children are unlucky, but when he makes new gains the same house becomes auspicious again and the same wife and children now become auspicious and are welcomed. All these are superstitions and such talk is nonsense. This is a kind of polytheism. It is against monotheism. Only Allah is the master of profit and loss, and good or evil. Misunderstanding. If someone says that his belief is based on experience, it is a misunderstanding. It is not necessary that one who considers some occasion as inauspicious, every work he undertakes at that time will be unsuccessful or will not be done properly, or problems will arise. In fact, equal possibility is there that it may prove good for him. It is expected from a man, that on every occasion, he perform his work with perfect trust in Allah, having faith in Allah's power. Now good or bad, whatever is in his fate, is the will of Allah. There is nothing unpleasant in it. One who considers something or some occasion to be inauspicious and that it affects future events should know that it has no relation whatsoever with the future. Whatever is to happen is bound to happen. Someone may or may not sneeze. Inauspiciousness lies in wrong beliefs and disapproved qualities. In the city of Antioch, 3 prophets of God arrived and started preaching to the inhabitants so that they accept Allah as their cherisher and worship Him, that they embrace the religion of Allah and have faith on the day of judgment. They told these prophets, they said, surely we augur evil from you. 52. Because of your presence we are suffering from so many difficulties and problems. As a matter of fact, the king of Antioch had in the beginning shown displeasure towards those prophets and to those few who had declared their faith in them. The prophets replied, "Your evil fortune is with you because of your own deeds. 53. Your beliefs are wrong, your qualities are undesirable, and this is your misfortune, and evil omen. Do not care for bad omen." Imam Sadiq A.S. has said, "Bad omen is according to the way you think. If you do not care for it, it will prove to be a thing not worth caring for. And if you consider it to be absolutely non-existent and an imaginary thing, it will prove to be non-existent and imaginary." 54. There is a famous tradition of the Prophet, called the tradition of Rafa. A part of it is as follows. When the companions asked the Prophet, "We are in the habit of taking bad omens. That is, we unknowingly talk of bad omen." The Prophet said, "Whenever you speak of bad omen, do not have faith on it and do not become habituated to it. Travel on Wednesday and its supplication. If it is said that Wednesday is an inauspicious day, then in this regard there is a tradition of holy infallibles that we must not worry about it." A tradition of Sayfinach al-Bahar says, "One who leaves his house on Wednesday, and as opposed to those who consider bad omens, he does not turn back home, he is saved from all calamities. He remains safe from all difficulties and Allah fulfills his aim for which he undertook the journey." 55. There is a tradition from Imam Ali Rida A.S. that one should read the following supplication while beginning a journey on a Wednesday. "O my Lord, I seek protection from that wickedness, which I find in my own self, so save me from this mischief." 56. Imam has taught supplications in which a person invokes, "I seek your protection from the inauspiciousness of this Wednesday." Rather, Imam teaches us to say, "I want to come out of the evil which is present in my own self, into the shade of your protection." We must always augur good. It should not remain unsaid that to augur good is recommended and Sharia also commands it. The Messenger of Allah has said, "Indeed, to augur good is liked by Allah. Taking a good omen is like a person on seeing someone, or by hearing his name, or by any other relevant matter imagines happiness and deliverance from affliction for himself." 57. For example, if a co-traveler is named Nasrullah, help of Allah, one should say, "If Allah wills, by the auspiciousness of your name, Allah's help and assistance would remain with us all the way." Narrations mention that in the battle against infidels in Hudaybiyah, when the companions arrived, the Prophet, taking relevance from their name Saul equals easy, said, "Our mission was made easy." Auguring evil is related to polytheism. Yes, the meaning of auguring evil is that upon seeing a handicapped person on the way one thinks that the control over the Prophet and loss of the work for which he was going has slipped from Allah's hand. And now it is in the hands of seeing that handicapped person. One begins to take an imaginary thing as effective and does not consider the effect and control of God. That is, he does polytheism in God's actions. On the contrary, if one augurs good, his good opinion in respect of Allah and his hopes increase. He does not consider these imaginary things to be effective. Rather he considers Allah as the only effective power. Conclusion. Monotheists should consider all good and evil, all profit and loss, all kinds of hope for goodness and deliverance from evil, to be related only with God. One should use the causes as means, but all one's hopes should be in the will and pleasure of God. With regard to effect, the causes are not cut off and independent from Allah. Hope should be only from Allah. He can make any cause as means, and he may, if he so likes, does not make some cause as the means and without the involvement of any cause. He exercises his will. Considering causes to be necessarily effective is a kind of polytheism. Such imaginary things and bad omens have no effect of their own. Making imams as intermediaries is not polytheism. Certain ignorant people, like the Wahhabis, label the Shias as polytheists because they consider their imams to be intermediaries between them and God. They invoke Allah in their names and repose hope in their intercession. On the basis of this they allege, "May Allah give us refuge," that Shias worship their imams. The reply to this allegation is that Shias never consider their imams as partners of Allah. They are true believers in monotheism. They consider the Holy Prophet and the 12 imams to be creatures of Allah and his proximate servants. They consider the worship of anyone other than Allah as polytheism, and a prohibited act. They obey the Holy Prophet and the 12 Imams because it is the command of Allah to do so. O you who believe, obey Allah and obey the Apostle and those in authority from among you. 58. And whatever the Apostle gives you, accept it, and from whatever he forbids you, keep back. 59. It is proved with categorical proofs that the 12 Imams from Ahlul Bayt household of the Prophet are the true successors and legatees of the Prophet. The Holy Prophet himself has clearly commanded to obey and follow them, while obedience to the Prophet is in fact obedience to Allah. Visitation ziyarat is not deification. Yes, to visit the graves of the beloved servants of Allah is not polytheism. Shias do not worship the Imams by going for their visitation ziyarat. Rather it is an expression of respect and humility. Common sense dictates that the servants of Allah should be humble before Him. Intelligence demands that fear of Allah and humility to Him should be shown by everyone. In the same way, to respect the favorite servants of Allah is a proof of obeisance to Allah. To love the beloved ones of Allah is to love Allah. 60. The Quran also commands the Muslims to honor and respect the Holy Prophet. For example, it is said, "Do not raise your voices above the voice of the Prophet, and do not speak loud to him." 61. Do not hold the apostles calling you among you to be like you calling one to the other. 62. That is, do not call the messenger like you call each other, but say, O Messenger of Allah, that you may believe in Allah and His Apostle and may aid him and revere him, and that you may declare his glory, morning and evening. 63. It is also established with solid proofs that the 12 Imams are included in this command, as they are having the same respectful position. They are all from the same light nur, and as the respect of the Prophet is obligatory, in the same way their 12 Imams, respect is also obligatory. Respecting the kings and rulers. It is a matter of great astonishment that those who say, in opposition to Shias, that respecting the Holy Prophet and his progeny is polytheism, themselves behave with great respect and honor towards the rulers, the people of authority, and rather every wealthy person. In fact, the Holy Prophet has prohibited humility to rich people when he said, Allah destroys 2/3 of the faith of one who shows humility towards a wealthy person, just because of his wealth. 64. This tradition indicates that besides humility to the wealthy with one's words and actions while also having a similar feeling in the heart, because of his wealth, can cause the destruction of 2/3 of one's religion. But if the wealthy person is religious also, and respect is shown because of his piety, then it would be respect of religion, and respect of Allah's religion is respect of Allah himself. Taking someone as intermediary is different from considering him a deity. To take the Prophet and other dignitaries of religion as intermediaries in the court of Allah for fulfillment of worldly and other worldly aims and desires, or to consider them as intercessors, who by the will and permission of Allah would be our helpers in delivering us from physical losses as well as getting us spiritual values, is not polytheism. There is a difference in taking someone as intermediary in the court of Allah from considering someone as God. Allah has bestowed such power and capability to the Imams that with the permission and will of Allah they can help the servants of Allah. They can lift up the fallen ones, they can save them from stumbling over or colliding with something, they can save them from afflictions and misfortune, and they can take those on the roads to their destination. Making them intermediaries is just like one goes to a doctor or takes medicine and considers them as means to good health, which would be ultimately provided by Allah. If Allah had not permitted, the doctor or the medicine would not have healed. In the same way, if Allah did not wish, the Prophet and Imams also would not have helped. Everything depends on Allah. If a person feels himself to be incapable or unable to reach the king on his own, he seeks help of those courtiers who are favorites and confidants of the king and makes them his intermediaries. In this way there is no disrespect to the king. The great Muhaddith Iraqi has narrated many incidents regarding the mediation of Ahlul Bayt and the fulfillment of needs through them in his book Darus Salam. We relate here one of those incidents. On page 539 of this book the incident begins as follows. The fifth miracle is regarding Mullah Abdul Hussain Qansari, who was a reliable and an upright person. He was an attendant at the shrines of Karbala, and was famous as Turbate Pek. He used to collected the dust of cure, cake shifa from venerable places with proper procedure as mentioned in traditions, and distributed it to the pilgrims. It was the beginning period of my being an attendant, that in a religious gathering I happened to meet him. I found him to be very pious and virtuous. I came to know that he had the opportunity to be the attendant of and in serving the holy shrine for many years. I requested him to narrate some miracle that he himself has witnessed. Of the astonishing things related by him is the following. I was living Kwansar. For some time I stayed in a town near the city of Baruhart, and then I stayed in villages. At last, one day, I got a passion to serve at the purified grave of Imam Hussein A.S. It was winter and I did not have adequate means for travel. But still I acquired 2 asses. Canopied seats and saddles were made from tree branches for loading grapes. I purchased 2 such saddles. In one I arranged to seat my children, one of whom was named Hassan. In the other seat, I spread a quilt. And on that quilt I seated my wife. Then I started towards Baruhard. Probably he himself was sitting on the back of the donkey outside the seat, so that from there I may start my journey to Karbala. Incidentally, the priest of that village, Mullah Muhammad Jafar, met me. He showed his favor, grace and kindness. But when he came to know about my intention and determination, he started telling me that I should not go, saying, "It is very cold, and you do not have proper things to protect yourselves. In such circumstances it is not proper for you to proceed." We had too much discussion and in the end he was disappointed. He drew a line with his finger on the ground and said, "You are going, but this way you will kill your children, you remember this day and this line." He said this and went away, and we again started our journey. Till by the grace of Allah and by means of the attention of Fatima Zahra, we all finally reached Karbala, safe and sound. Some time passed after this incident. Hitherto, people from my area also came for ziyarat. Some were from my village also. Among them, a nephew of Mullah Muhammad Jafar was also present. I thought that since they had come from my village, I should keep them as guests. That way they will also see that not only we have reached safe and sound, but we have started receiving the necessary requirement and means for sustenance also to a certain extent. The line Mullah Muhammad Jafar had drawn to prevent us had no effect at all. Hence I went to my house at the time of breakfast. A piece of cloth was spread on the ground for serving the dishes. Whatever food we had prepared was put on it, then discussion started. My elder son, Hassan, was playing in the courtyard. Our house was situated on the 3rd floor. Suddenly Hassan climbed the ladder leading to the roof. After climbing to the roof, he inclined himself forward to see us through the window. We had hardly seen him in that position that he fell down to the ground in the narrow street below and died immediately. The events changed and joy turned to gloom. On seeing the condition of the child, I ran towards the shrine of Imam Hussein A.S., barehead and barefoot. On the entrance door, I requested and said, "Assalamu alayka ya waritha Isa Ruhullah, peace be upon you, O inheritor of Isa, the Spirit of Allah." Then, I entered and clung to the Zari 65. I loosened the shawl tied to my waist. I tied one end of the shawl to the lock of the Zari, and the other to my neck. Then I started weeping aloud. I said, "I swear, by your mother Zahra, I will not accept that the line of Mullah Muhammad Jafar should affect us. And his words should not prove right. It should not be so." Attendants, pilgrims and others present in the shrine gathered around me. They were surprised on seeing my condition. They were asking the reason for it, but they were not getting any answer. Some thought that I had gone mad. A religious scholar who stayed in my neighborhood came to me, calling me to join in the funeral rites of my son. Through him people came to know what had befallen me. My religious scholar neighbor started advising me, consoling me, "Oh Mullah, you are an intelligent person. The dead do not become alive. Come on, let us take away the dead body. The mother is about to destroy herself on seeing her child." But I did not agree. So he started reproaching me. Others also joined him. I said, "Please leave me alone. I have no concern with you all, why are you troubling me unnecessarily?" People began to ridicule me and then They went out of the shrine to carry away my son's bier. My condition deteriorated from what it was before. Once again, I started wailing loudly, I swear by your mother Zara, I will not move from your zari. I will not come out from your shrine, even if I die. Or that Allah should take away my life, or return my son Hassan to me. I had torn the neck of my shirt. I was hitting my head on the zari, till it was almost noon. Suddenly, a noise was heard from the gallery and courtyard of the shrine. People were seen running here and there. I could not understand what had happened. Then I saw people entering the shrine in the form of a procession. When I looked carefully, I saw my son walking towards me. My neighboring religious scholar was holding his hand. His mother was just behind. People were reciting salawat. Having seen this, I threw myself on the ground. I kissed the stone near the zari. I prostrated in front of Allah, thanking him. Then I got up and embraced my son. Then I kissed his eyes. I asked people about the happening, and the religious scholar said, we had taken him for the last rites to the corpse bathhouse outside the city and had just put the first bowl of water on his head. That we found his temple throbbing from both the sides. It seemed as if someone was massaging it. Then there was some movement in the head, and all of a sudden he sneezed once. Then he got up as if he had just awakened from sleep. Then we dressed him and brought him here for the ziyarat of the shrine and to give you the good news of this miracle. Muhadith Iraqi says, we have seen this boy Hassan many a times after that. Today on Friday 26th of Jamadil Awal 1300 AH also, by the wish of Allah, he is alive. Although his father, Mullah Abdul Hussain passed away a long time ago. If it is said that Allah is more kind to and nearer to humans than he is to any of his creatures, so what is